I am here today not as a voice of dissent, but as a voice of concern. As citizens of this great nation, we cherish the fundamental right to cast our votes and have them counted accurately. However, recent developments have cast a shadow of doubt over the integrity of our electoral process. The cornerstone of any democracy is transparency, yet it appears that transparency is sorely lacking in the handling of our ballots. From the moment our votes are cast to the final tallying process, there is a disturbing lack of accountability and oversight. Consider this: our votes are tallied 100% by the county, without any involvement of citizen election boards. This means that from the precincts to the distribution centers to the enigmatic warehouse on the north side, there is no independent verification of the counting process. The warehouse, shrouded in secrecy and barricaded from public view, serves as a symbol of the opaqueness that plagues our electoral system. Even authorized poll watchers entrusted with the task of ensuring fairness are barred from witnessing the crucial moments of ballot reconciliation. And herein lies the crux of the issue. Nothing is reconciled in the open. The entire process is veiled in smoke and mirrors, leaving us, the electorate, with a profound sense of mistrust and disillusionment. It is far too easy for skeptics to dismiss our concerns by claiming a lack of proof. But how can we provide proof when we are systematically denied access to the very mechanisms of our democracy? Our inability to scrutinize the handling of our ballots breeds suspicion and erodes the foundation of trust upon which our electoral system should stand. We are not asking for the impossible. We are simply demanding transparency, the right to observe, to question, and to ensure that every vote is counted accurately and fairly. Transparency is not a luxury. It is a necessity if we are to uphold the principles of democracy. I urge the Selection Board to heed our concerns and take decisive action to restore transparency to our electoral process. Let us tear down the barriers of secrecy and invite citizen oversight into every step of the ballot counting journey. Only then can we begin to rebuild the trust that has been eroded by years of indifference and total lack of respect to we, the people.
We, the people that have filled this room, have interrupted their daily routines to address the increasingly concern that has come to light in the past 10 years. We all have suspected that there were improvements needed to ensure that the voter integrity was always being addressed to the highest level. We have found out the hard way that within the last few election cycles, the integrity of our elections has been subject to fraudulent activity. We could spend hours debating each of these topics, but with the built-in time constraints under the rules governing this hearing does not make this possible. So let's address one of these topics. Under several PA state laws, all which you are more than aware of, the positions that you have sworn to uphold has a minimum compliance of cleaning the voter rolls at least once a year. Not until a very concerned Allegheny County, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, United States of American citizen took it upon himself to research and educate others in the quest for this very important task. The laws that you three have as part of the positions you hold and have sworn to uphold have not ever been carried out. But even when presented with this information, the three of you haven't even set up a special department to expedite this process. something that must be budgeted for part of the complying with the state laws and regulations. Every day you drag your feet just proves one of two things. You are not capable of performing the sworn duties, or you are unwilling to do so. So which is it? Thank you.
Hi, first I want to thank you guys for your hard work, because I know election is a hurricane. I watch you guys. But today I just want to talk about a little bit on observation at the tabulation center. Some people are concerned. There is some concerns that I have, and I brought them up in the past. It is really hard to see hundreds of feet away. I don't know if we could make adjustments to like bullpen areas for the observers, maybe rows or something where people could walk, or tape or something where observers could, walk around more. Because I did see some people, they're all county workers and they're just there to do their job, but I did see some people not following policies and procedures. And I did voice it and let some people know in the county, but they kind of just blew it off like, yeah, it's no big deal. So I did contact the board and I was sure that it was taken care of. I don't know if it really was or not. So, that's important. I think that people need to see that. Something else too is, let's see. So at the observation, people don't know. I'm usually the one that's telling people, oh yeah, this is the process, this is what's going on. There's no written policies and processes and procedures. Like you have the zero reports there. It'd be nice if you had like a policies and procedures written down, like here's what people are doing in the county and with your ballots and everything, so the observers know. Some observers are just there getting paid, they don't care, whatever, but there are people like me that do care. I want to make sure the process is followed right. I was provided a documentation at one point, like early on, maybe 22, 21, but it was like a secret document that had like, do not share this with anybody or whatever. I still have that document and I still use it to this day. Some other things too, I keep on bringing up, there were duplicate ballots in 2020. I have the proof, we were provided the documents. I have gotten no response from the county and saying, yes, we did find them, here's what we did to correct them. It would be nice to have the county say, this is what we've done to correct them. I've had some conversation, but it's not really like public, and I think that's important that people know that it's been fixed. I know you guys did fix the machines when I complained about the machines last time, not scanning the ballots right when I was able to show you guys, hey, these are already in the air. It seems like they fixed those machines from what I've seen, which is good. And there's some other things that I think that you guys have done, but I think it's important to make sure that these things are happening right, because we're not, and also in court it was also decided that our ballots, once they're marked, they're not official anymore. That's what the judge said in a document. I don't know why that is, but so now we are scanning unofficial ballots and we're casting our ballots with unofficial ballots apparently. People have asked, we've been talking about that, we're like, well, should they still be unofficial ballots? I think that's something that probably needs addressed as well. You can find that in one of our court documents. And what else? Yeah, I think that's about it. But and I think the last thing is transparency. I've sent the county quite a few emails just asking. I try not to do it when you guys are really super busy. It'd be nice if we could just get a response and say, hey, I got your email, I'm busy right now, I'll get back with you. But and I've sent some other emails too asking for. I've already got data. I already got data that I needed, but I needed some timestamps for a set of data files. But I was told, yeah, I'm on vacation, I'll get that to you. And it's been like months, almost probably a year since I've got that, and it's already public record, I got it. But trying to get that data, I need that data because I'm using it to help you guys fix things as I can find them. So, thanks.
Thank you. Christine Maruccio.
Good afternoon. My name is Christine Matarocha from Moon Township. I will be commenting on a few topics. Number one, I'm here to inform you that at the 9/11 drop box in Moon Township had a group of persons approaching people dropping off ballots and asking questions about their ballots. These persons are known community activists, which could be intimidating persons walking in alone. My concern is voter interference. One of these persons offered to take someone's ballot in for them. Clearly, that was not their job. At times, they were loud and obnoxious. A number of times, the county workers had to go out and speak to them about their activity. These boxes and salaries for county workers and police working at these sites are expensive. I believe the county money could be used more wisely, since in essence, every mailbox is a drop box. 2, Moon Township has gone from 13 districts to 16. While a group was canvassing, it was discovered that the PA Voter Service website is incorrect. For example, it will state houses numbers 100 through 300 all voted at one particular polling place, when in reality, you have to put in each house number individually because those houses on the same street have different polling places. Also, the website does not know McKinley Drive, so there's no way for those people to find out where they are supposed to vote. I know this is a state website, but the county should be aware of this. Number 3, a man in a local community received a voter application letter from supposedly the Pennsylvania Board of Elections for his paternal grandmother who died 54 years ago. Her name was spelled with ethnic spelling and was sent to his address. They wanted her voter information updated and sent a stamped addressed envelope for return. The letter stated that the registration deadline was April the 8th. However, it was stated that the registration will still be accepted even if it's returned after the deadline. This letter was signed Joe from Vote the Win. I don't know what that is. Okay, 4, I have brought other evidence to the Board of Election meetings in the past, including names of persons who were registered to vote from their businesses, maps of registered voters' addresses that landed in the middle of the streets on Google Maps. I have copied pages from the Allegheny County real estate portal with the proof of selling the property from one person to another, obituaries from funeral homes and newspapers, and testimonies of current residences and neighbors of the deceased. When I email about the status of these findings, I hear nothing, even after I was told that the county was going to look into my questions. Why? Why no response? And 5, anyone on the ground who's door knocking knows there are these discrepancies. These are all nonpartisan problems that should be addressed. I believe Title 25 election laws have statutes to protect the rolls and that they should be scrubbed at least once a year. Maybe some of that drop box money could be used for voting roll maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Ira.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to address you people. I live out in Wilkins Township. I'm just going to talk about the big picture, not any of these, some of these details. Polls from the last 3 years, over the last 3 years, have shown that maybe 70%, as much as 70% of Republicans think the 2020 presidential election was rigged or stolen or whatever, there was cheating. And maybe the whole total population, some numbers go as high as 50%. So maybe we're just a bunch, some of us are a bunch of wackos and we watch too much Mike Lindell and Steve Bannon, but maybe it's just a bad optics when people in authority, supposed to be in charge, are being very defensive and just saying, take our word for it, or everything's above board. It's just a bad look. And it's this defensive posture, it just enhances the questions that we have about our elections. I remember back in college, maybe some of you also took political science, and I read Rousseau and John Locke about something called the social contract. And as you probably know, social contract with the government, and the government, there's sort of like a set of rules, ground rules that people play by, and as long as the government adheres to those or tries to adhere to those rules, it generates public trust, and the government is seen as legitimate, the representatives. I think what that is in question these days is many of our institutions, whether it's the health field where we see now the bogus claims about masking up was going to prevent you from getting this, or some great shot was going to come out and was going to be fantastic, and wasn't always so fantastic for some people. The criminal justice system where we see right today where they're trying to keep us from choosing who our candidate will be for president of the United States. So it's like the fix, like something ain't right here. And so we have like fake criminal justice system, fake news, maybe fake elections. I mean, I don't think we're at that point yet, but if you guys don't take actions, maybe to ensure us, maybe we're just, we're misinformed and operating under some misconceptions. But I think you guys need to do something to enhance public trust in our system of government, because if it becomes illegitimate in the eyes of many of us, then that social contract is broken for many of us. And I just hope that you'll choose a path of harmony for society and try and address these issues in a fair way. That's
Thank you for coming. And our last speaker is Mary Jo Costello.
Hello. First of all, congratulations, Sarah, on your huge win. I've been coming for about 3 years, so congratulations. Over the past 3 years, I've witnessed Board of Elections meeting attendees being rudely ignored and dismissed by leadership. Bethany has been the only member to acknowledge us and has asked really good questions. I trust that your vision for Allegheny County for All will bring better, more inclusive listening skills and improved outcomes compared to your predecessors' complacency and indifference towards our concerns. I can see already that I'm kind of blanketing what everybody else has said. It is no secret that at least 50% of voters have concerns about our election process, and with good reason and certainly plenty of proof. The curiosity lies in why the election board cannot acknowledge this. Despite very fair inquiries and ample data, transparency remains very elusive. This lack of transparency to the citizens of Allegheny County continues to erode trust rather than improve the situation. I think thank you, Ira, you expanded on that. This is not referring to drop boxes or mail-in ballots. As Christine said, every mailbox is a drop box. Sam DeMarco's lawsuit drama over the drop boxes and the miscellaneous mail-in narratives divert all the attention from the fundamental issue, which is verifying every vote's authenticity. That is where I think everybody is questioning. For example, I witnessed our elections manager, David Voy, testify under oath about the verification of the many duplicate ballots being counted, as per Matt referenced. David Voy also informed me that we no longer have to post tapes at the end of election night, yet at the county poll worker training last week, we were instructed to do so. We are told that citizens who filed legal affidavits to help clean the voter rolls are wasting our time. However, it is not a secret that canvassing and NCOA data reveal grotesque variances, and I can confirm with, I think it was Christine that talked about canvassing, it's a little bit terrifying. The percentage of registered voters to citizens in Allegheny County is highly improbable as well. This abandonment of fundamental practices such as posting tapes, cleaning voter rolls, bipartisan citizens counting ballots together with count verification and transparent reconciliation only raises doubts and further undermines trust in verifying that a vote matches a voter. The extreme secrecy and denial are also cause for great concern. The solution seems fairly straightforward. One example would be bipartisan election boards for citizens to sit at each step of the ballot flow process to verify that everything in the county is counting, including full reconciliation. Alternatively, sending mail-ins back to the precincts for verification of all ballots with the civilian judges of election and their boards could enhance transparency as well. Currently, it appears that the county counts every single ballot and that no citizens count ballots. I could be wrong, but prove me wrong. We ask you to help us, to help you create a process that we can all trust. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Oxenick, would you mind reading the submitted comments into the record?
These email comments will be made part of the record. One is from Ms. Avon, who basically read it to the board. One is from Charles Fultonovich, raising a question about how the return board works and how the audit is conducted as required by the election code. One is from William Town, who, echoing what was said by, I think Mr. Van Bibber, contending that the county doesn't consider the ballots counted as official ballots, as opposed to voter ballots. So some concerns were made there. And one from Brenda Foreman asking who owns the voter rolls, the state or the Commonwealth, and a request to demand the voter rolls exclude non-citizens and anyone under the age of 18. That's it.
Thank you for that. We'll move on to portion 3 of our agenda, the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 20th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Perfect. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Great. Fantastic. And now we'll move on to our 2024 general primary preparations and update.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna start throwing some stats at you, and I'll shift it over to Chet and Jessica to continue, and then we'll answer any questions you may have. To close the registration for this election, we have 905,000 registered voters in this county. We're up 5,000 from November, and I'm sure that is due to the changes in the motor voter that the governor instituted. As you all know, tomorrow is the last day to apply for mail-in or absentee ballots. So far, we've processed 120,000 ballot applications and mailed those ballots. And so far, we have returned 56,400. I believe we received 7,000 in today's mail. And for this election, we also changed 62 polling locations. 16 of those were due to Passover. We sent notifications out to every household telling them where their new polling location is. And this weekend, people from the maintenance department will be posting signs at the old location directing these voters where to go. I believe Chet has some numbers on some fewer ballots that we've sent back.
Sure, I just wanted to let you guys know of how many ballots we've sent back to voters for problems. Right now, the number is at 949 have gone out, back out to voters. For a breakdown of that, just the wrong date, whether it be they forgot the year, they put in May, various other problems, that was by far the highest. 666 so far had a wrong date issue. We've identified 70 nakeds. We think the nakeds are actually down this time around, maybe due to the new yellow envelope, we're hoping. And just no date or signature, just blank, 213. So then the wrong date is far and away the biggest problem up there. So all 949 have gone out to the voters. We've actually received back 170 so far that have been corrected. And we'll send those all this week. As soon as we get them in the mail that day. We identify the problems and get them out that day.
And in a bit of good news, all of our polls are fully staffed. We have 6,875 poll workers. Every poll has at least 5 people. 148 of those are also high school students. So that's all good. And as you know, we did our ballot return sites this past weekend. We had a total of 947 ballots returned. It was almost an equal split between both days. 461 on Saturday and 486 on Sunday, and we're going to repeat that again this weekend from 9 to 5 on Saturday and 11 to 7 on Sunday. Just a reminder, the county office building is also open for ballot return, 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Thursday. We're gonna be open till 8 p.m. Friday, and then it'll mimic ballot return hours for the weekend, and 8:30 to 8 the following Monday, and then normal poll hours of 7 to 8 on Tuesday. I'll turn it over to the board for any questions.
I'd like to make some comments. Feedback that I got from the folks that were out observing this weekend was very positive, and I want to recognize the election workers for doing that. Mr. Bob Howard had replied, he had been in North Park, and he said that it went exceptionally well. The election staff was very friendly and helpful and proactive. There were no irregularities that occurred, and he didn't expect them to. He talked about how precise the election staff is. Reports we got from South Park, they talked about that they introduced themselves to the workers, and the county employees were aware that they were there to observe. They actually helped, they were welcoming, they gave them seats and told them where they could sit and everything else. And they watched the whole process. They talked about the employees being very professionally. And some folks, they said there were several folks that approached that wanted to take and return more than one ballot, and the county employees told them, no, you're not able to do that. You're only able to return your ballot, and told them that they have to leave, have the other person return it, or they gave them a form that they could fill out. But the bottom line is, from the folks, the reports that I got back from observers, they were very happy and pleased with the professionalism and the hard work of the elections employees, and I want to recognize that for you folks. Thank you.
Councilwoman Howell?
Thank you. I do have a few questions. The first one, a couple of them are in response to public comments, because I did hear some questions that we had talked about before, but some new ones as well. The first thing about Nikki Haley being on the ballot, is that because the ballots were already prepared before she dropped out?
No. Nikki Haley suspended her campaign. She never officially withdrew her name from the ballot in the state of PA. She will appear on every county ballot.
Thank you, I was wondering about that. And then I know there was the question about folks who are not citizens voting. And what I want to say is, I believe that the training is because no one should ever be turned away. I'm trying to see the person who asked that question. There you go. No one should ever be turned away from the polling place. Technically, if you lived in Florida and you showed up to vote, you could still get a provisional ballot. It just wouldn't be counted when we review the provisional ballots at the return board level. So anyone could cast a provisional ballot, but it doesn't actually mean they're voting. It just means they're filling out a piece of paper that if they are not registered to vote, if they are not a citizen, not eligible to vote, if they do not live in the district in which they cast the provisional ballot, when it gets to the return board, their vote would not be counted. And so you would be able to track that, but really no one will ever be turned away at the polls. Poll workers should be instructed to never turn someone away, because there are the few instances where someone is casting a provisional ballot and they should be voting. And so there are different procedures and many, many checks that go into place at the return board level, but it is true that no one at the polling place will ever be turned away. They just may fill out a ballot that is garbage and will never be counted. So I wanted to answer that question for you as well. The other thing that I wanted to ask about, because we talked about it at the last Board of Elections meeting, we hear a lot of questions about the voter rolls. And so I know at the last meeting we had talked about maybe putting up the guidance online that is very explicit. We cannot just clear the rolls whenever we want. If we wanted to do it every day, every person that we know moved, we couldn't do that. We have to actually follow very specific laws about when we can remove the ballots. I don't want to misspeak to that, but I know we went to details about it last meeting, and we had talked about that guidance being posted on the elections website so that we don't keep getting questions about it. Has there been any update on that?
We haven't done it yet. That's something we are working on.
Okay, yeah, I think if we could do that, not just to save these folks time who keep coming and talking about that, but just for myself so that I don't have to keep remembering what the laws are. But there are specific laws in place, specific measures that we take to remove people from the rolls. We actually have no say in that. We have to follow the federal law and state laws about how to remove people from rolls. So we can't do it any faster or any slower than we are already doing it. But we can post that online so that everybody can read the laws around that we have to follow. The next thing was about the quality control. Julie, I love that you've been pushing for this for so long. I know that you guys were the ones who talked about the special actually secrecy envelope, and so I was so excited that we have this yellow actual secrecy envelope, and I don't think that would have happened without you guys coming, you and Ron coming and asking for that over and over again. So I'm really excited that that has been implemented, but I do think there's always room to grow. I don't think myself or Councilman DeMarco or Executive Innamorato would doubt that at all. There is always room to grow on that, and I'm really interested. I know that you probably already did a lot of research about it, about the best practices for states that have had mail-in voting for super long. Remember, this is newish to us as well. And so we are following all the laws that exist, but it would also be helpful to know about maybe laws we could advocate at the state level to make our processes more smooth and seamless and more transparent for everybody to understand. The next question I have is specifically about the warehouse. I know somebody used a really funny word that I like that was basically like, it's a black hole and no one knows what goes on there, but I can't remember the word. But I've seen that too, right? That folks have to stand pretty far away. It's hard to watch a poll or watch the counts when you can't really see it. And so I was just wondering if anything was changed from the last year elections, because we've heard about this in previous years as well, to allow more access, even if it's just visual access, to poll watchers specifically in the warehouse.
So there are not really poll watchers in the warehouse. The parties can have duly authorized representatives and each candidate can. We have 2 locations, one in each room for these observers to watch. And we have the big 60-inch monitors where we can focus our cameras on specific tables or specific scanners, you know, at the request of some of these or of some of these watchers. But so far as of this election, our plans have not changed.
Okay, so it's the same as we've done it in previous elections. Something that I was thinking about is, you know, like casinos, I think, do this really well, where, so maybe they have to stand a certain distance back, but could we have something overhead that is projecting that they could actually see, like a camera that shows, hey, this ballot comes in and it goes all the way down to be counted, nothing's being added in, nothing's being removed?
We do. We have more cameras than Fort Knox is what our vendor told us. So the cameras are positioned all throughout the warehouse. I can't remember the exact count, but if you look at our tabulation area, for example, you can see the grays that are coming in on my hair. It is that focused in on the ballot tabulation machines. Same thing in the pre-canvassing room. They're all overhead of, you know, the 120 people that are in that room.
Right, but no more than last year, we just heard, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and so last year, I know, I've been hearing this for years, that people have concerns that they can't actually see what they need to see from those cameras. So I'm more asking, is there anything, like, is it more detailed cameras, is it different angles? Like, have we explored ways to just make that whole process more visible?
I don't know that we have room to add any more cameras. I think we literally have every place but the bathrooms covered. We can look at different angles.
Yeah.
We toyed around with the angles before, but I don't think adding more cameras would really help the cause.
What about, like, someone suggested the, like, walk through to be closer, that people can actually see? Because that, I mean, we've heard this for years now.
There were some security concerns that we had with just allowing anybody to walk through. We have a very controlled environment there. We have staff that are permitted in areas. Again, we have the cameras that show the observers the full process, and I think that's sufficient.
Okay, I just know it isn't sufficient to the people who come here, so I'm just trying to kind of brainstorm aloud if you guys are at least actively thinking of more ways that we can make it more visible. I would like to hear about, like, improvements in that as we go through with a new board.
We'll do walkthroughs again throughout this week. We can look at camera angles. One of the things that we did change that I recalled, I forget if it was last year or the year before, we do ballot recreation. So if a ballot comes in and it's ripped, it's damaged, for whatever reason, we have to recreate it. We had concerns from the public on that recreation process because they couldn't actually look at the screens. We pivoted that around. They're probably as far, the tables here, they might be 4 feet, 6 feet, okay, 6 feet in front. They can see the screens. If they ask to see the ballot versus what we put into the express vote, we can show them. People have looked at that before, and that seems to ease some people's fears as well.
Okay, and then the next thing was, somebody talked about a letter from the PA Board of Elections. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, there isn't a Pennsylvania Board of Elections. Each county has a Board of Elections, and we are actually mandated by state law who sits on this Board of Elections. So as far as adding citizen members, which I'm a big advocate for in other settings, but the state law actually prohibits us from doing this here, it by law has to be the county exec and the 2 at-large council members. So if you want to see citizen participation on this board, which I think is a fantastic idea, write your state legislature. Really, that is the way to get it done. I would be supportive. I'll write a letter of support if anybody wants that, for changing the law to allow citizen participation on this board. But right now, even if we wanted to, we actually couldn't do that. But as far as that letter is concerned too, for years now, especially since mail-in voting, we have seen different groups sending out these letters that you referenced, saying, hey, you're not registered to vote. I've even got one. I vote in every single election, and I've gotten these letters saying, you're not registered to vote, or you missed this deadline, or, someone voted in your place when I had it. So these are groups who get the voter rolls. As you all know, they are public information. And you have to look really closely because they want you to think it's an official letter. They want you to think it's from us. They want you to think it's from some state board, but it's really not. It's some kind of political action committee that pays, and by law has to put a paid for authorization, or what's the word, paid for, disclaimer on it. So look really closely for that disclaimer. That'll tell you the PAC that paid to send those letters out. And that's where you can kind of figure out what is their motive here, right? Look into that PAC. What are they doing with their PAC money? All of that is publicly available information. And every time I have researched one of those letters, I have always been able to trace back to the PAC and to figure out what that PAC's agenda was. So I would kind of suggest that you look at that. But it's not from us or from the official states.
Where do they get this woman that's been dead for 54 years? Where does that name?
An old voter roll. I mean, I know people who have moved and are still on like text bank lists or phone bank lists for different campaigns, because the old lists, people still have copies of them. So they might have a list from 10 years ago that they're sending a letter off of or calling off of. These lists of voter rolls have always been accessible to the public. And so they could just have an old roll from when that woman was still alive. That does not mean she's still on our voter rolls today, but what it does mean is at one point she was, and she was whenever they got their list. So that's what I would tell anybody who sees these letters out there. They are intended to cause concern. They are intended to make you worry that you're not registered to vote or that someone's voted in your place, but it's not from us the overwhelming majority of the time. We will tell people to look out for your ballot coming back to you if you messed up your ballot. We do not want your vote to not be counted, but we have very strict laws that we have to follow in order to count your ballot. So if you do see your ballot coming back to you in the mail, please get it. Please follow the instructions inside so that we can get your vote counted. The next question I wanted to ask was about the tapes being posted. That is the first I've heard that they didn't have to be posted. Can you just speak to that?
So as part of Act 77 that was passed in 2019, removed the requirement for the board members to sign a posted copy of the tape on the polling place when they're exiting. We have never changed our policy. We print an extra tape. We still continue to tell them to post one, even though it's not required.
So the law does not require us to do it with Act 77, but we do it anyways because we think it's a best practice and we want everyone to be able to see it.
That's correct.
And all poll workers are trained to keep posting the tape.
That's correct.
Perfect. My next question is about, just because this isn't something that I remember hearing before, but he spoke about the unofficial versus official ballots, and I was just wondering if you could speak to that because I didn't know about it. Yeah, thank you.
I have some right to know case, and innocently or not so innocently, David testified that an official ballot we treat as a voted ballot once it's voted, and it becomes the contents of a ballot box, and under the election code is not public review. And that's probably the best way to put it.
So it's like mail. Once your mail's delivered, it's no longer mail. This is the opposite. Once your ballot is voted, it is now
Well, once it's voted and tabulated.
Gotcha.
So it's official ballots, but the status changes once it's voted, once that vote's counted.
So it's an unofficial ballot when I have it in my house, or even if it's filled out, it doesn't become official until I
It's
fill
still
it.
official ballot.
Okay.
And the phrase we use, and it's not in the election code, it's such the title, but as Dave said, it becomes a voted ballot. It's still official, but the status changes a little bit. It becomes a voted ballot, which then becomes contents of a ballot box, whether it's voted by mail in return, or whether it's voted in the poll.
Okay, so there's no such thing as an unofficial ballot. Okay. It's just a voted ballot versus a not yet voted ballot.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. My next question is about these written policies and procedures about, like, specifically how votes are counted, how they're received, how operations at the warehouse operate. Is that information available anywhere publicly? I don't think I've ever seen some of it that he was referencing in his public comment. I was just wondering if they are available for inspection, maybe even it's just posted at the warehouse.
A lot of what we do, we collectively do, is governed by the election code. There are certain written procedures, but a lot of that, admittedly, is this is the way it's being done, and it's not been committed to writing. So anything that's in writing is accessible. And
You're saying read the election code and that gives
Well,
you,
parts of the election code, we have some internal documents as well that are subject to being furnished upon request. But a lot of it is in the election code, in terms of the return board and how to calculate our post-election audits. It's not subject to any local variance. It's mandated by the code.
So as someone who has like helped folks file many right to know requests before, it is a very, cumbersome process. Is anyone objected to like posting that at the warehouse so that people don't have to file a right to know request to get those documents? Because again, I think a lot of the questions that we hear are overwhelmingly transparency oriented. If we can just eliminate that question of what are the internal policies and procedures, they're already public documents if you would request them.
Right.
Could we post them at the warehouse and that anyone who's there could see them, or anyone who wants to see them?
I guess we go to post them online, and
Do I need to move for that, or would either of you be objective? Are you just gonna do it, or should I make a motion?
Can you say we have one, let's do it, because it's
Can
part
we
of
please?
our ministerial task.
Yeah, I think.
Sam's right, I don't think most.
Okay, that would be great. I think that would just, would that be helpful if you could, that you don't have to be the only one who has one, that other people can see it too? Okay, great. Thank you very, very much for that. My next question is about the voting at the county office, and I wanna make clear, the ballot return sites are different than what you can do at the county office building, which is up until the deadline, which is tomorrow. You can request a mail-in ballot, get a mail-in ballot, fill out a mail-in ballot, and return it. That is not what happens on the weekends at these ballot return sites. So I first want to make that really clear. But so I had a very close friend who went to vote at the county office building a couple days ago. And so I guess they're doing manual lookups for the voters. And I don't know what that means, but I just know that he was given the wrong ballot, and he knows to check that, right? So he knew this isn't the precinct that I'm in. And so I'm just wondering if you could talk about like, what's the process? I know tomorrow's the last day, but if I show up to cast my ballot, how does the staff make sure that I get the ballot I'm supposed to get?
So when you fill out your application, and we process it through the short system, obviously the short system gives us your correct municipality, ward, and district where you're registered, and that assigns a precinct number, 1 through 1327. So then we have a file of either Democratic or Republican absentees or mail-in ballots. There's 4 files. You go to that ballot number and open it and print it. So it's possible that something.
User error.
It could have been a user error, exactly.
Okay, and so I know he said that there was only one staff person there at a time. Is there usually more than one staff person at that desk? Could we like implement I'm the one that clicks what ballot to give, but then this person makes sure it matches?
There should be 2 people in there.
Okay.
We scheduled 2 people all day. Might have been a restroom or something.
Oh, okay, alright. And that's what that second person does, is checks, okay,
There's one person process the application, and the next person prints the ballots.
perfect. My next question is, 6,875 poll workers, that's long. I'm very, very happy to hear that. I wish we had like 20,000 every single election, but someday. So are those 6,875 all trained and confirmed to a location?
All are confirmed to a location. I can't say that all are trained because we have training classes going up through this weekend, so I'm sure there's still people that are signed up for that. We have people that will take the online training literally the morning of as well.
I probably would have, yeah, I understand that. Okay, and so you're confident that like that's the number that we're gonna have on election day?
You're always gonna have
Close to.
no-shows. You're always gonna have no-shows. We have a bullpen of people. After the last Board of Elections meeting, we had an influx of people that volunteered to work anywhere in the county. So we never wanna turn anyone away, but we are literally at the point where we have 6, 7, sometimes 8 poll workers at locations that might have, a low number of registered voters. So we have to be reasonable with who we're assigning where as well, but we have these people in a bullpen as a backup, so when those no-shows occur, which they will, we can deploy those folks out.
Awesome, and then how many of that number are county employees? Because I know I've heard from a lot of county employees that I hear every election, like, we're being forced to work the polls and we don't want to. So how many of that 6,875 are county employees that were told they were volunteering?
I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but I believe it was around 150, last meeting that we discussed it at.
So only 150 total county employees are working the polls out?
About, I don't know the
But
exact
I mean,
number
like,
right now.
around that?
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you decide which county employees? Like, is it certain departments? Is it where did you get that 150 from?
We take from the executive branch, non-24/7 departments, and we typically go to the people that ask to work first. We have county employees that genuinely enjoy working the election. They like to be involved in the process, so we'll go to those people first. And then we'll offer other people the option of working at the polls or working in the field as a polling place coordinator.
Okay. And so is there any county employees that, like, let's say we have the no-shows on election day, which we know we'll have, so there's no one in addition to that 150 that already knows. So if you're a county employee and you're watching this meeting, if you have not already been told you are definitely working at this poll on election day, you are not going to be asked.
If there's county staff that are in that bullpen, they're already aware that they're in the bullpen. So this is a county-wide effort. You know, elections has a staff of 40. We can't do this just ourselves. So we engage other departments in the executive branch. They were made well aware that they were going to be needed on election day. And again, most everyone had the option. Do you want to work in the field? Do you want to work at the poll? Do you want to work in the warehouse? We give people the choice.
So that 150 number, is that including this bullpen? Or is it a bullpen
No, there's a
position?
separate bullpen of 25.
25, okay. Thank you. And then, I think my last question is about the list of the folks who we had to cure their ballots. I know we talked about this before, but I'm pretty sure it's Philly who does post the list so that folks can help, hey, my cousin's on there, my neighbor's on there, that folks can reach out so it's not just you guys having to do that effort, but that it's actually the community and even the voter, that we can put out a call, hey, you wanna see if you messed up your ballot, go and check your name here. I know we've talked about that in previous years. Is that something that we can implement? Because I think it's something we would have to do pretty soon. I just don't want anybody's vote to not be counted because they think it's a junk letter coming to their house.
Well, one thing we've done that we've added, this just for this election, is now we are scanning them all in as pending. So if you have an email in the system, not only are you getting the ballot back, you're also getting an email like immediately when it hits our warehouse that, hey, you have a problem with your signature. Near the end there, when we feel we don't have time, we send the email and we create a list on the last weekend, which would allow them then to go down to COB Sunday, well, not Sunday, but Monday or Tuesday and cure it in person. Because there's no time to mail it back Monday.
We'll get it back, yeah. Yeah, so can we do that now? Like, can we not wait until it's maybe too late to get folks down there? Because I know if you call me Sunday and tell me I have to get down there Monday or Tuesday, it might be kind of hard to get there.
Well,
What you mail the ballot back?
that's the
Now it's in transit. You know, it's
The issue.
But then they will still know that. Like, if I see Sam DeMarco, my good friend, his ballot was messed up, I can at least call him and be like, what's up, Sam? Did you fix your ballot?
I got my email, my ballot.
Yeah. Right, but you know what I mean? Like, to give people, like, bring everybody together to help out. I know I've seen Philly's communications about it. They post it up and they say, we have 949 ballots that were messed up, you need to cure them. Click this link and see if it's you or someone you know.
It's something we should consider. I do have a photocopy of every ballot that went back out, all 946. I do have the addresses and names of every person.
Okay, is that something that's for public consumption? I don't know if we want to put them both up together though, you know, just for like safety, but even if it's just the names.
Defer to Al on the privacy issues there.
Yeah, if we don't,
None of those apps, because there's private information. There's been a concern on this side that to post such a list would, one, maybe embarrass certain people, two, let political parties and candidates sort of bump. So there's been a reluctance to do other than what being done, we call them a check letter, a letter that's emailed out, directed in, well, they're check letters, right? They'll go down the history of check letters. Directly reach out. Unlike some counties where they send a postcard and say, you come back, come on in and fix your ballot error.
People don't
Send
send
the
that.
ballot back to them, and make it real easy, send them the necessary documents.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I mean, I know that I could have very easily put that the year was 2023 on any documents I filled out today, and I wouldn't even be able to tell you that I did that, you know? So I'm sure that the date fixing is something that's, I mean, we saw, it's really, really common that people don't put the correct date. And so I'm just wondering if we don't associate, you know, or if we do like a last name and a zip code, or just the first and last name, or some kind of, something that's identifiable. Because again, Philly does it, right? They have a lot more voters than us. And they found
I don't know what they do.
I think to Al's point, this is probably something we need to discuss separate from this meeting, just to make sure we're not violating anyone's personal privacy or
Sure.
releasing any personal information.
Can we just look into that to try to do it? I mean, again, if this is not something we can fix in the week, I understand, but, you know, I would also offer to help if we could at all. But just maybe ahead of November, for future elections, just to make it something that it's not surprise, your vote didn't get counted, you messed it up, it didn't count.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hallam. I think that's something that is worthy of a discussion and
Thank you.
handling and looking at what our options are available. Councilman DeMarco had another question.
Sure, I want to talk about the voter rolls, because that was something else that was brought up here, all right? So David, could you confirm when and how often you take and look to try to clean the voter rolls? And explain the process that goes into it, the documentation you get, how you check the NCLA list each year. If you could give an explanation for that.
Yeah, it's a lengthy list, but I can abbreviate. We start out in January, where we notify any voters that have not voted or contacted our office, meaning change of address, applied for a ballot for 5 years. We send out those 5-year notices, and if they reply to it, say, yes, I still live at this address, you know, they still remain on the file as active. If they do not, they become inactive. So now, once you're inactive for 2 federal elections, which is an even number of general elections, if you fail to vote, we can remove you from the rolls. Now, the state of PA is a member of ERIC, it's the electronic records, you know, where we compare our records with other states, and they compare our records with the United States Postal Service, which is the NCOA notices. We do send those out to the voters, we send it out to their current address and forward to their new address. If they do not respond, we cannot remove them from our rolls. They fall into the 5-year no vote category. If they do file a change of address with us, we proceed and follow that change of address.
And you do that every year, correct?
Yearly. It's
Okay.
required by the state, we do this yearly, we have to file affidavits and to the same. All funeral directors are required to file a list of states or a list of deceased voters or residents with the Department of Health. We get weekly updates from the Department of State with our voter registration records from the motor vehicle centers saying that this person is deceased, and we remove those voters. Now, we have had cases where if a voter's month or year is off by 1, we fail on the side of safety and we do not remove those voters. I mean, unfortunately, in the past it has happened that we remove the voter as deceased, they are not, and we end up with the egg on our face. But yeah, we follow all the procedures that are set forth by the Department of State.
Could you also explain that law prohibits us from taking and removing anybody from the voter roll within 90 days of an election? And that's prior and following?
That is correct. None of these voter list maintenance activities can occur within 90 days of an election.
So when we have special elections, those also interfere with the ability to take and do this as well?
That interferes. What we were able to do is, last year we had the 3 legislative special elections, we were able to segregate these files and just send the notices to the people that were not in those legislative districts. So the rest of the county didn't wait because of the special elections.
And I've tried to explain to folks on numerous occasions, even if we, sitting up here, were to be able to wave a magic wand and all of a sudden make the voter rolls 100% accurate as of 4:01 p.m. By the time we conclude this meeting, they will probably be inaccurate because on average we lose to death approximately 15,300 people every year in Allegheny County. There are 126,000 annual real estate transactions in Allegheny County. Those aren't all moves in or moves out, but they're real estate transactions, so that many of them are. We have 9 colleges and universities every year. They're graduating classes of seniors, they're bringing in classes of freshmen. We have 43 public school districts every year. You have the school districts graduating seniors. These seniors become 18, they then become eligible to vote. So there's a litany of things we go through. We have folks who join the military. You know, you have folks that are expatriates that are signed by their businesses to work overseas or out of town or whatever. So they'll show up on the NCOA roll because they changed their address for purposes of mail, but it doesn't mean they've actually changed their residency permanently. So these are all things that go into play. Is there anything else you can think of that I didn't mention there?
No, I think you did very good, thank you.
Okay.
Do you have any additional questions? Okay.
I don't know if we got this question, but I wanted to know specifically about how many ballots, like, I guess backlogged is maybe the word, for people who applied for a mail-in ballot versus send them out. I know you said we processed and mailed 120,000 and we received 56,400 plus, I guess, 7 in today's mail. But how many do we have that we received their application but haven't yet mailed?
So the last batches I sent to our mail vendor went Friday morning, so the only applications were pending were both processed Friday and so far today.
Okay, so if they got an email saying their ballot was, or their application was processed anytime before Friday, their ballot has already been mailed?
That's correct.
Gotcha, thank you.
Thank you so much. We also heard some concerns around quality assurance with mail-in ballots. And I know a lot of procedures have changed since the 2020 election. And Director, I was hoping you could speak to some of the ways that we bake in quality assurance into making sure that people get the correct mail-in ballot.
Absolutely. So after 2020, we actually started including it in our request for proposal to the vendors to describe their quality assurance. We've had a couple different vendors over the last few years. The current vendor that we work with uses a camera matching procedure to ensure that the correct precinct is receiving the correct ballot that matches with that envelope. It doesn't link back to the voter specifically, it just simply says that this grouping is getting the proper ballot. We also work with our county stats department to do a variety of comparisons between the file that our vendor prepares, the file that we prepare, and we'll do a lookup to make sure that every race is accounted for. We also put the onus on the candidates a little bit. We'll send the candidates, any candidate that's writing a letter that says, we have you listed this spelling, this is how your name is going to be listed on the ballot. Sometimes people want their initial, their middle initial on there, they want a junior, the third, whatever. We send that to them and ask the candidate as well to verify. If the candidate sends it back to us with a correction, clearly we'll make that. If we don't hear from the candidate, we're going with what we have. So we've included, that letter's been going out for, I think, decades probably. The county stats portion of the comparison of the vendor file versus the file that we maintain, that's something that we've just implemented in the last year, but it seemed to be successful thus far for this election.
Great, thank you for framing that out. And, another thing that's concerning is hearing folks feeling that they are being intimidated when they're walking into a site to drop off their ballot. Can you remind folks on if they are going to table or be out in front of any of these sites, what the expected behavior is, and if someone is experiencing intimidation, who do they contact?
Absolutely. So if anyone's experiencing the intimidation at one of these sites, notify the staff inside immediately. That way they can address it immediately. If you're thinking about it after the fact and you felt uncomfortable with your experience, contact the elections division and we can address that. We're familiar with a lot of these groups that are out there. It's people that we see at Board of Election meetings and on election day, and we can reach out to the parties as well. The reminder for the group setting up is this is not a polling place. This is just a ballot drop-off. There can be no campaign literature, flyers, propaganda whatsoever. That includes wearing a t-shirt, a button, a sticker with your candidate on it. The tables that I saw at North Park simply had, Republican committee, Democrat committee. And they had sign-ups for people that wanted to volunteer to be poll watchers or to assist just in general campaign efforts. that is perfectly fine. I did have to address both groups though, because magically, some candidate information ended up on both tables. So I just very kindly asked them to put those away in their vehicles, and everyone obliged. So 0 candidate information on the tables. You can't have signs laying on the ground just in case someone wants to pick them up. You can't have anything on your person supporting any candidate. And for the most part, everyone obliged. We had very few issues. We just asked that whichever group is set up, that you not approach the voter. You can stand there, voters can approach you, but aside from saying good morning, that's the extent of your contact with the voter unless they engage you.
Great, thank you for clarifying. And last question, with Moon Township receiving 2 additional voting locations, are we doing any specific and special communication to individuals who live in that area just because they have new precincts?
So Moon was redistricted prior to this primary. We actually had 3 voting precincts. So every affected voter was mailed a new voter ID card, which gave their polling location, a new updated polling location. Now they'll also receive the notification of a polling place change. It's just like where anyone that changed will get that notification.
Okay, great, thank you. And with that, we'll move to any new business. Do any of the members have any new business?
Only new business on this, I'm sorry. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 13th, 10 o'clock here to certify the results. Yeah.
What about return board? Like when that's gonna be it, for us to swear in the return board, do you have dates?
By statute, it has to be.
So I can put in some PTO at work.
Yeah, we'll send out the letters this week, to all 3 board members, telling you when the return board's gonna start and the time, and if you want to, swear in the workers. But it's always 9 AM on Friday after.
Oh, thank you very much.
Great, do I have a motion to adjourn? Perfect, we are adjourned.